I also hate ads, but I hate bad advertising. And it makes sense, right? There were some shortcomings on the privacy side. I started to become obsessed with advertising. Advertising is the business model on the internet. We're seeing this today inside of AI conversations where most people chatting to AI have problems, right? They're trying to achieve something. Companies solve people's problems. We enable AI companies to make money from ads. And so as we all know, AI is very expensive, right? We need to subsidize those tokens. And so with advertising, we're able to deliver those experiences for free. Today is most definitely one of the best times in history to be here at the center of this AI revolution.
Welcome to The Business Game, the show that breaks business down into real levels, from $0 to $200 billion, so founders can see exactly where they are and what comes next. Today's guest is playing at level 1, which sits in the $0 to $1 million bracket, the founder, startup and survival stage. At this level, you're proving the model works. You're validating demand, refining positioning and fighting for consistent revenue. The challenges? Doing almost everything yourself, hiring your first team member and stepping from practitioner into CEO. The goal? Turn expertise into traction and build momentum that's repeatable, not accidental.
Welcome to The Business Game. I'm Steve Plummer.
And I'm Kalina Stano.
And we're joined today by Andrea Tortella. Andrea is the founder and CEO of Thrad, building the advertising infrastructure for AI, placing ads directly inside conversations where people are already searching for answers.
He's right at the center of one of the biggest shifts happening in tech right now. As the world moves from browsing to asking, and is building a company already serving millions of ads globally, working with everyone from startups to Fortune 500 brands.
Let's dive in with Andrea Tortella. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we're looking forward to this one. We were talking off air. So first of all, Andrea, can you tell us about your journey to starting Thrad and about yourself and about what Thrad does?
Yeah, absolutely. My advertising journey started at university. When I was in college, I started to become obsessed with advertising. I did some advertising for a few startups, for different companies, freelancing for them. And so it was super fun to be working on different marketing campaigns. Advertising is very creative, right? It's very artistic, but at the same time, it's very technical. It's very scientific. And so the harmony of the worlds prompted me to spend more time in the space, read more about the space, go to different events, meet people. And so the more I spent time in it, I ultimately went on to do advertising for Perplexity. We were building their own advertising infrastructure. And so that's what prompted me to start Thrad with my co-founder, Marco, who was doing his PhD in machine learning at the time, where we started Thrads to enable paid ads in AI, paid media in LLMs, where we enable AI companies to make money from ads. Those companies have 95% of their customers who don't pay for AI. And so as we all know, AI is very expensive, right? We need to subsidize those tokens. And so with advertising, we're able to deliver those experiences for free. We're able to subsidize them. We're able to make them cheaper, essentially democratizing this technology. And at the same time, we enable brands to connect with their customers, right? Advertisers want to follow the eyeballs. They want to reach you, so they're spending more time. And so we enable advertisers to connect with users in those new environments.
Yeah, fantastic. And you moved only quite recently to Silicon Valley. You were telling us just before we came on air with your Italian background, growing up in Monaco. So why did you go San Fran and Silicon Valley, apart from the obvious kind of reason?
Yeah, I think today is most definitely one of the best times in history to be here at the center of this AI revolution. I think San Francisco and Silicon Valley more broadly is probably the best place in the world to start a startup, to be in technology.
Yeah.
The biggest advertising companies in the world were built here. Obviously, you met and will be very big ad tech business at Berlin as well. They based in Palo Alto. And so for us, being in San Francisco meant being close to talent, being close to our customers, being close to investors. And so more broadly, having an ecosystem which enables us to move much faster. I think San Francisco is one of the highest concentration in the world of talent. You have the smartest people in the world, the most ambitious people in the world. And so having, this environment which ultimately enables you to optimize for growth, optimize for learning, I think has been key to our growth today.
Yeah, and your enthusiasm is
Absolutely.
palpable.
You can tell that you're surrounding yourself with the right people. So that's super exciting.
Yeah.
I want to go back a step. You mentioned working in the marketing team for Perplexity. You talked about realizing that customers don't want to browse. They just want the answers. So on that, I'm curious to know, for you, what was like the light bulb moment when you realized that there was a gap that you could fill with Thrad?
Yeah, I think that generally we'll have some sort of ad phobic sentiment. Most people don't like ads,
Yeah.
right? And I actually, even as an ad tech founder, I also hate ads. And so I think advertising itself has had bad advertising, and it makes sense, right? There were some shortcomings on the privacy side historically. The experience as well also fell short, with time. And so I think advertising is not intrinsically bad, right? Advertising is the business model on the internet. It's what's enabled us to use the internet for free to subsidize the experiences. And so I think it's thought and then it's valued at the same time. We need to ensure that advertising has a user-friendly experience, a privacy-friendly experience, where the ads are not only complementary to the user's digital consumption, but it's also additive, right? And we're seeing this today inside of AI conversations where most people chatting to AI have problems, right? They're trying to achieve something. Hey, AI, help me do my homework, help me travel to this destination, help me write this report, help me do this Excel, right? People have problems. Companies solve people's problems. And so we're not here to force feed people with ads that they don't want to see, but actually help them solve their problems, help them achieve their tasks, and help them by showing them brands that can actually achieve their goals. I think how I define marketing, which is a definition which I borrow from Seth Godin, is that marketing is about spreading ideas that matter to people who care. Right? Spreading ideas that matter to people who care. There's incredible ideas, incredible services, incredible products in the world. People should know about those. And so for me, starting Thrad was the most powerful vehicle, the most scalable way to exercise this definition, where today we're connecting millions of people chatting to AI with brands that they love, with thousands of products that they should know about.
Yeah. Do you have an example of some of the businesses, maybe one or two that you've really enjoyed working with so far?
I think a great example is one with whom we did a press release recently. We made an announcement on Women's Day with Bethany, who's owned by Innova Pharma. They're one of the biggest pharma companies in the world. And they're advertising with us women healthcare products. Right? What is unique about conversational AI is that it opens up a new frontier of understanding of learning, and it allows people to be open with those AI, and so to have those kind of more intimate conversations and questions that they would not be able to have in other environments. And so AI is very much used by a lot of women to understand their bodies better, what happens through their cycles. And so Bethany is a company which makes personal healthcare products for women, personal hygiene products. And so a lot of women having questions around that, we made this announcement on Women's Day to celebrate essentially Bethany, enabling them to connect with their customers, with their audiences in ways that were not able for them before.
Mm. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, let's dive in a little bit to how it all works at Thrad, because as we said, you're building ads inside AI conversations. So I'm guessing maybe some people feel a bit weird about that. I go on to, let's call it, just for argument's sake, for example, on Pat to get an answer to something, and now I'm seeing an ad. Do you get some pushback about that? That feels too weird. It feels too invasive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk us through that pain point almost of, sounds like a good idea, but it's weird as well?
Absolutely. I think the pushback is rightfully needed. Or we do need some pushback. There are definitely risks with advertising in AI, and we should acknowledge those, and we should act on those. Right? I think that this is not, we can control our fate, and so as much as there can be dangers and limitations to advertising AI, if done well, it can be very, very positive and very beneficial. And so we need to ensure that the ads don't interfere with the organic LLML, right? Ads need to be clearly labeled as ads. We're not here to deceive users. At the same time, right, as I mentioned, they can be additive to their experiences. They can be complementary to experiences. And so, like I mentioned before, people chatting to AI have problems. We're able to connect them, with brands that actually solve people's problems. As much as AI can bring solutions and can be agentic, ultimately companies, can solve people's problems to a much bigger extent. And so, having safety barriers, having guidelines to ensure that advertising in AI is safe is very important. And so people's concerns are very rightful. At the same time, we're able to execute on those. And so if we appreciate that with safety and guidelines implemented, advertising AI can be actually more beneficial.
Yeah, I think too, looking at some of the examples on your website, it is quite elegant. There, like you said, there still is the search function, and then at labeled an ad, it comes up with the ad, which is related to the search, but it says ad above it. It really reminded me of just the Google homepage. You type in something, you get the search result, and then ads, yeah. So it was really interesting that it was quite elegant, even though my initial response was, "Oh, this feels a bit weird."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And has that been like a bit of a learning process for you then of building that resilience with the pushback and refining how you're presenting the advertising?
This is what we constantly work towards. I think this is a never ending effort for us, ensuring that the ads are as user friendly, as privacy friendly as possible. I think one of the aspects that AI advertising unlocks, right? Generative advertising for the generative era means that we can have generative ad units, we can have generative copies and sponsored messages that meet users wherever they're in their journeys. And so some ads can be very salesy, some ads can be much less salesy. I think more broadly, it's just a way for brands to connect with their users, to bring value to them. I think previously, advertising was very much about the value that advertising would deliver to the users was only confined to the consumption of the ad itself. We're trying to invent new ad formats that can give more value to the user than the brand is able to extract from them. One specific example, and one specific ad format that we're pioneering is what we call it sponsored prompt, right? Even before you start chatting, sometimes at the beginning of the conversation, you can have some suggested prompts, right? To kick off the conversation, to initiate the chat, right? Let's say I have 3 suggested prompts. One of them can be sponsored, right? And so those can be very educational, right? So if I have, for example, a vitamin brand advertise, a sponsored prompt could be like, how much sugar is there in this company, right? And so now, when I click on the prompt, the response is educational. It teaches me something. It delivers more value to the user, more than just the simple consumption of the ad itself. And so this is what we're trying to crack is like, how can we give as much value to the user as possible? How can brands connect with their customers, connect with the audiences, and deliver as much value as possible? And then all of that is education, right? As users chat deeper within those conversations, they open a chat at the top of the funnel. As they chat deeper, they go low in the funnel. They have multi-turn conversations. And so they understand more the brand. They understand more the category. They understand why they actually need this, right? They have this unified attention, concentrated attention. And like social media, where people are just scrolling, context switching, they have this fragmented attention. Instead of chat, users are very locked in. They're very intellectually stimulated. And so they're able to learn, they become more educated customers, which ultimately yields better outcomes for advertisers as well, because they're higher quality customers. It's not like I'm just scrolling, I see an ad for, some vitamin, I click, I buy it. Right now, I understand, why is this needed? How does it affect my bottom, right? And so ultimately, I think this enables more transparency in the marketplace. Customers are going to make their own decisions. And I think, making everyone more educated is just going to benefit everyone.
Yeah, you're really sort of building that foundational relationship between the customer and the brand from the beginning. And they feel like they haven't just been sort of caught out in a doom scroll. They actually feel connected to it and like they understand why they're buying it. Love that. That's very cool.
Yeah. And it's also the stationery supplier in Europe, you actually got kids who were searching and caught on AI to buy stationery, like to go and do drawing and things like that. Can you talk us through that little case study? Because that's almost like a full circle thing. Advertising in AI is bad, but this company used it to actually get kids off electronic devices, get their coloring pens out and fire their creativity. So I find that really interesting. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so this is the example of Carioca. They're the biggest pencil brand in Italy, used by a lot of students. And so this was a great way for them to empower their audiences, empower the youth to be more creative, right? A lot of students are obviously chatting to AI to their homework to learn. And so this was a great way for them to connect with them in those environments, right? AI is not only about text generation as well, right? There's also a lot of image generation. And so users would be generating images. Hey, make an image of X. And so now that I made the image, right, AI generate the images. Now having the ad for different pencils and crayons can actually bring this creativity to life. And so it's all about this, right? It's empowering users, empowering brands to exercise, and bring these empower their users to be more creative, right? We're just a vehicle to enhance whatever they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I love that. All right, you've served millions of ads globally, and you work with Fortune 500 brands. And congratulations on your startup and having such huge success so early. Has Thrad success happened quickly and unexpectedly for you, or were you always confident that it would take off and move at the speed it had?
I think we were early to the market. I'm obsessed by advertising. I'm addicted disease level by advertising, where I think it's literally my purpose in life. And so I've been in the space for some time, and I think it was undeniable to me that ultimately advertising would arrive to AI environments, to AI conversations. But we have only started picking up very recently. I think since the beginning of the year, OpenAI launched ads, and this was a pivotal moment for us and for the industry, where OpenAI launching advertising inside of ChatGPT has educated the market and has created this revival where advertisers would want to get exposure to ChatGPT ads. They want to advertise inside of AI conversations. And so this was a great moment for us when a lot of the world's biggest brands, some of the most sophisticated marketing teams in the world would want to start advertising with us. And so actually some of our clients, like Health.com, are advertising both with us and with ChatGPT. They're one of the fastest growing companies in Europe. They're a retailer, advertising hundreds of products with us. And so this is a testament that ChatGPT ads is incredible. Advertising inside of other environments is also very beneficial. So essentially very complementary those solutions.
Yeah. And how did you prepare yourself, or the company at least, for that speed? Because you said just this year, and now it's done pretty well.
I think it's very hard to be prepared for anything like that. It's definitely very chaotic. I think the most of Silicon Valley is even fast and break things. And so when you break things, you definitely have a lot of chaos. A lot of things are always going wrong, but I think ultimately it's if you manage to stick everything together and keep the ship afloat, ultimately you'll prevail. And it's all about ensuring that this growth doesn't break you, doesn't break the company. And I think we've been lucky where we've been building those foundations for a bit of time, and then the wave has hit, the tsunami has arrived with the launch of ChatGPT ads. Now we were actually ready to capture this opportunity. When we have not started earlier, we wouldn't have been ready and would not have had the infrastructure to be able to process millions of ad transactions per day, serve the world's biggest companies. That would have been impossible. And I think actually this very slow growth in the initial days and has enabled us to build in quiet, obviously have exposure to some clients, but not the kind of growth that we're experiencing now. And so now that we had been battle tested for some time, now that the tsunami had arrived, we're in a great position to be able to capture this wave.
Yeah, wow. I want to dive into a little bit of shift the focus from the business to you as a leader. So you went from university onto Perplexity and then straight into building Thrad. And now it's going, guns a blazing. Everything's, like you said, the tsunami is here. What did you have to personally grow into to really quickly to become this leader that Thrad needs to thrive?
Yeah, I'm still learning today. I think I'm definitely a first time founder, just out of university, and so I think what is fueling me is this constant learning, learning from industry leaders, learning from peers, and surrounding myself with fellow founders who have been very successful in positions similar to myself, learning from them, how to manage a team, how to manage customers, how to manage investors. All these things were instrumental to where we're at today.
Yeah, wow. Has there been, do you have any sort of rituals or any sort of center points that bring you back to when you have made a mistake and you go, okay, how am I going to learn from this? And, deep breath, move forward. Is there anything that you sort of cling to in those moments?
I think today things are moving so fast that it's very difficult to stop and ponder. I think at least we have these iteration and learning cycles that are immediate. Like we do something for the first time ever, every single time.
Yeah.
And so we literally learn as we do it in the moment itself. And it's quite crazy to see that and to experience it. So not so much one specific ritual. It's just trying to be very fast in what we do, and learning on.
Wow, incredible.
You mentioned, Andrea, being surrounded by clever people and mentors and things like that. What does that look like for you? Do you go to weekly meetings with tech founders? Is it a phone call? Being in that environment, how does that show up physically for you to help you?
It is exactly that. It is speaking to founders. Every different conversation is going to have with somebody that is a specialist in this, and so especially in moments of crisis, I think when things are smooth sailing and everything is great, there's definitely fewer phone calls. But I think in moments of crisis, that's when retreating to what had been in those same situations, it is very helpful to be able to manage it.
Yeah, okay. Hey guys, just a quick break to thank our affiliate partner, HubSpot. We are thrilled to announce our partnership with HubSpot, the ultimate all-in-one CRM platform. HubSpot helps you streamline marketing, sales, and customer service with powerful tools to grow your business faster. From lead generation to automations, it's got you covered. By using the link in the description, you not only get to start your HubSpot journey for free, but you'll also be supporting our work here on the show. Now it's back to today's episode. Well, you're managing a small team right now. So what's been the hardest part of not just doing it all yourself? That's just easy. I'll just get it all done myself. What's been the hardest part of that for you?
Oh, that's impossible. Like it is all about outsourcing everything to a team, ensuring that everyone on the team has full agency over what they do. And today a lot of that is outsourced. I think in the early days I was obviously doing every single thing myself. And today we have a different scale where we have to outsource. I'm barely aware of some of the projects and the initiatives that we have. I mean, obviously not broadly, yes, but some specific projects and small things that I'm not even aware. And I think that's, to some extent, it is a great thing because that is a testament that we move really quick, that we learn, that we optimize, that we experiment. And ultimately, those experiments accelerate our speed of learning. And that's what's going to make us successful. That's what makes it successful startups, right? It's all about moving fast. It's all about learning. It's all about being much more agile than slower enterprises and ultimately innovating.
Yeah. And have you got some tips for fellow young founders in the tech space about hiring or outsourcing?
I think today we're at the scale where we are lucky enough to be able to hire from our network, hire from the smartest people that we know, as the smartest people that we know. And so it's hiring from those circles of where the brightest talents spend their time, where they're evolved. And so that might be a university where my co-founder was doing his PhD, we would, start working with people who were in his lab or other labs. And then same on the commercial front, right? Working with people that we regard. And so it's very much this talent war, right? Where the best hires, you would need to fight for them, just like you would fight for a customer or for an investor. I think those are obviously the best people you want to hire. At the same time, you also have underpriced, unproven talent, and so I think that is much more less straightforward, right? That is much more a function of being lucky, but also positioning yourself to be lucky. And so, where are all the future talents spending their time? Then going to that, so whether it be some specific AI club, whether it be some meetups for marketing leaders, these kind of things. I think this is where you want to put the best talent, the most underpriced talent, the most high potential talent. That it's obviously very easy to hire people who have been at Google and OpenAI. Those are proven talents who are incredible people. But at the same time, as a startup, you want to get this underpriced talent, right? You're very lean. You have your resource feels great, and so how can you punch above your weight class? Well, it's by finding this underpriced, underappreciated talent, which is very high potential.
Yeah. I'm interested when it comes to startups, obviously trying to bring in talent, but you also don't have the money yet. You're trying to build this business. How does that work for you? How did you get around that? Did you seek investment? Did you bootstrap? How did you sort of work around that piece to get to where you are now?
I think we're lucky that the business itself, advertising technology, is not that capital intensive. Today, it's much easier to get started, right? You need very little to get started. We had some credits as well from AWS. We had different AI credits, and so the costs were not that high. We were able to bootstrap and get started and build our initial product, get our initial customers without any external investment. And so that is obviously not the case for all other businesses, but advertising itself is just code, right? And so if you can build a great algorithm that is going to match, millions of conversations with thousands of products, and then serve those ads, that is actually not very expensive, right? What is more expensive is the time that you put and how you're able to connect with brands that actually want those ads, how you're able to connect with publishers and AI companies that want to monetize those ads, less so much in the technical cost of coding.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense. So when you're building something this new, ads inside the large language models, what was the first thing that broke for you? Was it the actual product, distribution, or explaining what you do?
As in where we had the biggest bottleneck breaking, or
Yeah,
kind of?
yeah.
That's a tough one. I think more broadly, where most bottlenecks emerge aren't so much breaking points, it's more learning points. Right? It's like I'm going to experiment something. I'm going to sell myself in this specific angle, in this specific positioning. Is this going to make somebody receptive to what I tell them, right? I'm selling them something. Or are they going to resonate with this? And so that is just constant iteration where you try something, you do a marketing campaign, it's going to work, it's not going to work. And so, this is where you hit a wall. It's like, you want to try a lot of things, you want to make multiple different bets on different creators and different marketing channels, organic posts. And so some are going to get views, some are not going to be receptive. Same thing in the tech side. We experiment different ad serving, different bidding strategies. Some work, some don't. But I think by design, like we want to try to fail as much as possible because ultimately, one of those bets is gonna succeed. And so the crazier you are, the bolder you are in those bets, by definition, you're gonna hit a wall. By definition, something is going to break. But that's actually what we want.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. Amazing.
Let's talk about the future a little bit here, Andrea. What's the next phase for Thrad look like in terms of, continuing to scale? So is there a particular hire you're eager to make? With some pressure? Is there a particular system or software or whatever it might be that you want to put in place? Where do you see things going for Thrad?
Today we're seeing the internet becoming more conversational, right? People are searching less, they're chatting more. And so conversational advertising really unlocks a new world of targeting capabilities, new measurement capabilities. And so that's what exciting us today is thinking about a 0-click internet, right? If you look at the total amount of clicks on the internet, they're dropping. And so advertising is very reliant on the click, right? Everybody's looking at like click through rate, how many clicks did this ad get? If people are clicking less, they're chatting more. And so if we only have the click as a core metric for the advertising industry, well, that's not sustainable. And so what we're thinking about is, and what's exciting for us, what we're looking forward to is inventing new ways to do targeting, inventing new ways to do measurement and attribution when advertising AI. Today, we're doing research with the London Business School and Columbia University with Professor Alain Lambert, who is the head of the marketing department at the London Business School. And we're doing exactly this. We're trying to invent a new way to measure engagement and the performance of advertising inside of AI conversations. And well, ourselves as being a young team outsiders to the advertising industry, we looked at what's the etymology of advertising. Advertising comes from the Latin advertire, which means redirect the attention. And so that's what happens in advertising, where the publisher owns the attention of the user and then sends it to the advertiser in exchange of a financial transaction. That's what's our job in the middle, is to facilitate this transaction, to shift the attention of the user from the publisher to the advertiser. We want to facilitate this shift. And so what we looked at is how do we convert that into a metric inside of an AI conversation. And so we essentially convert the messages into vector. We look at the user message, we look at the AI response, we look at the ad, we look at the conversation after an ad. And so we see that the vector of the conversation shifts from what the user is chatting about to the actual ad. And so if I would have a conversation like, hey, can you suggest me, a morning workout routine? The AI response, you can push up some pull-ups, post your message, check out this product, it can help you recover from a workout. Now, what's interesting to see is, where does a user conversation go? Do they talk more about fitness, or do they talk more about the product that's being advertised? And so what you would see is the spike in attention shift, where the attention shifts to the advertiser. So maybe that attention can stay, maybe that attention can drop. And so measuring that and tracking that is very interesting to us. And so that's what we're looking forward. It's like reinventing the way that we understand advertising, reinvent the way that we are able to do targeting and measurement inside of the system.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I love that. I mean,
Wow.
the words that you used there were inventing new ways, right? And that's the true entrepreneurial spirit. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that is really cool. It's like you're cutting out the middleman doing
Yeah.
advertising here, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I'd love to lean into a little bit of that entrepreneurial wisdom and spirit. So if someone was building a brand new category like you are, but let's say they're, a couple of years behind, would you have, everyone wants a cheat code, everyone wants to get there quicker.
Shortcut.
Shortcut.
You want a shortcut, no.
Obviously, is there anything that you would, let's say you could do it over again. Is there anything that you'd like to bestow onto some of our listeners that might be a few years behind you wanting to break into a new category?
I would say be bold. This is what has enabled us, I think, to stand out of the crowd, is by doing things that surprise people, right? Advertising is about implanting memories. It's about seeding people with emotions. And so how do you do that? You do that by betraying expectations, by doing things that are going to surprise people. And so that's exactly what we did, which I would do even to a greater extent, is doing crazy things that are obviously lawful, but doing things that are going to move the needle in the industry, doing things that are going to get you noticed by the best people in the industry. And so for us, that was doing crazy marketing campaigns, like in-person activations that would make people's jaws drop. The day of my graduation, there was a big advertising conference in London called ATS London by ExchangeWire. This was a big gathering of marketing executives. I graduated in the morning. I went to my graduation ceremony. I was in my graduation gown. I biked to the conference. I go at the conference with my graduation gown. And it was towards the end of the event. I go out of the conference and I find somebody with a van, with a big white van, and I ask him, hey, can I pay you a little bit of money to tag your van. This was spray paint, but fake spray paint, which is washable. And so on the van, and I asked the person to park the van right outside the exit where all the big UK industry leaders, all the marketing executives would come out. And I spray painted the van and I said, "Fuck Thrad, ban ads in AI." This is absolutely crazy. It's actually not. Why would you say, in your own company, you should ban ads in AI, right? And this kind of anti-marketing marketing was what led us to go viral inside of these circles. One of the executives there invited me to the office. He just said, "Please don't do this on my wall, on my car, my office." And so, this obviously prompted a lot of people to pay attention to this. At the time, ads in AI were not known. LGBT ads did not exist. And so there's definitely raised awareness about us. And so inbounding these, very extreme, very bold, some could say, foolish and nonsense activations. And, to some extent they are, but doing those kind of things which are very bold and risky and sometimes, don't necessarily make sense. And again, like some might not work, some might work. But to us, I think those are, I would say generally be bold, be bolder, take more risk. That's what entrepreneurship is, right? It's risk taking and how big is the risk that you can take.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love that.
Love that example.
We'll have to find the photo of that. Do you have a picture of that of the van?
Well, you actually wait.
Yeah, well, you have to send it to us. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to see that. So, Andrea, on that note, I'd love your prediction as someone with their finger on the pulse. What do you think AI advertising will look like in 5 or even 10 years' time?
I think advertising is becoming more conversational. Until now, advertising was one-sided. It was brands broadcasting to everyone the same message. They make an ad, spam it to as many people as possible. And I think the future of advertising is not like that. The future of advertising is personal, where brands and customers are able to talk together back and forth, right? Where for the first time ever, brands are able to talk to their customers one-on-one at scale. And what do I mean by that is that if I walk into the street right now and I see a physical billboard of physical for Adidas shoes, I like the shoes. I can literally talk to the billboard and ask, "Oh, those shoes are really nice. Physical billboard in the street. You have the same shoes in a different color. Are the shoes waterproof?" Same on any image video, any Instagram ad, any YouTube ad. I can literally talk to the video itself and ask, "Oh, those shoes are really nice. Where is the closest store that I can buy those shoes right now next to me?" Right? I can literally talk to the ad. Inside of chat interfaces, you can literally talk to the ad. You can talk to the brand, right? And so this is not only great from the user perspective, where I'm able to learn more about brands, but also great from an advertiser perspective, right? I'm able to understand my customers, understand what are their pain points, and ultimately how advertisers better serve them.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So can you just walk us through for a moment, Andrea? If I'm a business owner, an entrepreneur, and I've got a product or a service and I come to Thrad, walk us through the process of how you would work with that.
Yeah, so we have two main ways. We're the only self-serve advertising platform in the world for paid ads in AI. And so anyone in the world can go on our website, they can click on Start Now, and in seconds they can launch a campaign with no minimum ad spend. We also have a managed service where we work with enterprises and essentially manage their campaigns. And so just like you go on Meta Ads and launch a campaign, you can go on our platform with a single prompt, you can launch a campaign, right? Just like vibe coding, anybody can code. With vibe marketing, anybody can market, right? You can just launch a marketing campaign by saying, "Hey, launch a campaign for the business game for X amount." Press launch, that's it. Just prompt the marketing campaign that is live. So yeah, that's really how simple. I think, lowering the barriers of entry to marketing is something that I see personally today in Silicon Valley, where we have a lot of techies, a lot of engineers that are great at technology, but they're not necessarily great at go-to-market and marketing. And so, even if you go on Google Ads or Meta Ads today, there is somewhat of a steep learning curve where you need to understand those metrics, to understand different targeting capabilities. With us, it's as simple as a prompt. It's as simple as talking to AI. "Hey, this is who I am. Advertise for me. Launch." that's it.
Wow.
It's incredible.
We got that recorded, right?
Yeah. I'm like, I want to.
And I love that idea of a self-serve advertising.
Yeah.
Self-service advertising. Like, that's incredible. With one click.
You remove the back and forth friction, admin hours, time. Wow, I'm blown away.
And I think this is one of our core principles revolve around speed. And I think speed of marketing is one of the most underappreciated components of marketing, where advertisers always look at lots of metrics, right? You look at the CPM, you look at the CTR. There's an infinite amount of metrics in advertising. But one of them is not time. It's not time to the market. I think just like in startups, just like in Silicon Valley, the marketing teams, the best marketing teams are able to advertise at the speed of thoughts. They're able to advertise at the speed of news. They're able to advertise at the speed of culture. And so being as close to user behavior, right? If you make the mental experiment today, right now, or thinking, how long does it take me to go live across different channels, right? You have a marketing idea right now. You want to go live on search, on social media, on retail media, on digital out of home, on email marketing. How long does it take you to go live on a campaign? It's always way too long, right? It's going to take minutes, hours, days, weeks. With us, it takes seconds. You go from an idea, a marketing idea, to being live, real-time bidding. That survey is happening in seconds. And we think that this speed of marketing, speed of media buying is super key because you're as close to user behavior. And this is where you have the arbitrage, right? If I launch a campaign and the trend is already over, then like, that's it. I don't have any arbitrage. I can't serve the cultural wave. And so that's why the speed of media buying, how fast I can go live, is crucial. And I think most marketing teams haven't appreciated it yet.
Yeah. I'm really interested to know how Thrad is advertising itself.
By using our own product, we advertise AI to marketing team. Actually, this is not a joke. A lot of marketing teams use AI, just to AI, to make their own content. And everybody does it. We do it ourselves. We say, hey, give me some ideas to write a LinkedIn post. Give me some ideas to write a TikTok post. And so those are marketing teams who are using AI to help them in their marketing planning and media buying. And so we advertise ourselves inside of those environments where when they chat and they see, oh, help me make a marketing plan. Well, we say, hey, actually, Thrad can do your marketing plan by advertising the AI, the ad that you're seeing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Andre, have you had, I guess, or come up against some walls in terms of your age and some older people not taking you seriously because you're so young? How did that part of the journey go?
Maybe. I haven't felt it myself, actually. So maybe I'm naive enough. But I think that's very hard to judge for myself. At least I haven't experienced it in a material way. It's not necessarily translated with the customers that we're serving today. We're working from the world's biggest brands, big companies. And I think ultimately advertising is one of the most capitalist industries in the world, where marketers are going to deploy budgets and ad spends to whatever can yield the best outcomes for them. And so it's very much a printing money machine, right? They give you a dollar gain, it gives multiples of that out. That is what Meta and Google built. And today we're very lucky to be able to do the same, where especially when we're early in the cycle, right? You have every new distribution has incredible arbitrage in the early days. The first Google ads, first Facebook ads, first TikTok ads were extremely powerful. And so that's this asymmetry that you have between supply and demand. You have new supply to the market, net new inventory, new people scrolling on TikTok, many new people chatting to AI, relatively few media buyers on the demand side. And so very beneficial for those players. So I think we're lucky that the product sells itself. I don't think age has been a blocker. It's not being the biggest block, at least.
Amazing.
Thankfully.
When you build what you're building, I think no one really cares as long as it works, right?
And I guess when you've pushed the boundaries in terms of getting attention that way that you did, it's pretty hard to ignore. Those type of what you termed as risky advertising. So yeah, well done. I mean, it's a really inspirational story of how you've actually lowered the barrier to entry for so many young entrepreneurs, and I think it's an absolute inspiration to the world.
I agree. And while we're talking about the future, you're sitting right in the middle of where every big tech company is heading, and we've talked about how fast things are moving for Thrad. What's a decision that you're currently wrestling with? As a business person, that can be like make or break Thrad. Obviously, there's always something that every business person's sort of keeping them up at night. What's keeping you up at night right now?
I think even more in startups, talent is what's ultimately going to determine the outcomes of our successes. And so this is what I'm thinking about today is how do I build the Avengers? How do I build the best team in the world for our business? And so finding the best talents in the world, finding the people that are the best at what they do is very hard. Silicon Valley is very famous for those talent wars. And so finding this underpriced talent for startups that are resource constrained is one of the biggest challenges. So it's very much about thinking every day, okay, I want to hire this commercial role. I want to hire this technical role. Who is the perfect person? And, being very proactive about that, adding a little bit of luck. This is what I'm thinking about all day. Like, how do I find the best people for the company? That's really what keeps me up at night, is building the best team.
Yeah. I'm interested if a young entrepreneur came to you, Andrea, and they said, can you give me some tips or advice or words of inspiration? What's a short thing you could say to them to help them, I guess, find belief or find, I don't know, almost the grit to keep going?
Yeah, I think my purpose in life is spreading the ideas that matter to people who care, right? This is what I'm trying to do with Thrad, as I mentioned earlier, connecting millions of people with thousands of brands. But marketing is not only about B2B marketing, B2C marketing, right? You can do marketing for nonprofits, you can do marketing for cities, marketing for governments. And so I think this is what's the most important thing for anyone, is to find your purpose. My purpose, what I feel that I exist for, is to do this, is to exercise this purpose of spreading ideas that matter to people who care, connecting people with powerful ideas, sharing ideas, ideas worth sharing, right? And so finding your purpose, I think I've been very lucky, right? Finding your purpose is a very tough one. But if you can go in that direction, find your purpose, and be obsessed about what you do, that is the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Right. And just back with hiring, what great person have you found recently, and where did you find them?
I would say that's one of my friends actually recently told us. He was one of the brightest students in the whole country, right? I'm originally from Monaco, the Principality of Monaco. He was the best student in the country. He ended up founding a hedge fund that now has tens of millions of assets under management. They started the fund when they were 20 years old. Now they have 35 million of assets under management at 20 to 22 years old. And so, yeah, that's how I found him. We were actually friends. He built hedge funds, was one of the youngest people in the world to start a hedge fund. And now he's joined the team, and I'm very honored to have him on the team.
Oh, incredible.
Solid background, right?
Yeah.
All right. Time for quick fire questions. Yeah. All right, Andrea, one of the things we do with our guests on the business game is we fire 10 questions at you really quickly. We take it in turns and we get you to answer them in a sentence or less. And the purpose of this is for our listeners to get to know the person behind the mic at a little bit of a deeper level. So are you ready to go?
Yes, yeah,
all right, let's go. Do you want to start, Paulina?
Yep, sure. Okay. Office or work from home?
Office.
Okay. What was your first job?
My first job was working in the food market, selling foods.
What's your go-to productivity hack?
Productivity hack, that's a tough one. I really like Notion.
Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
What's your coffee order?
Espresso.
If you weren't doing what you do now, what career would you choose?
I would be a marketer, or I would love to be a CMO.
What's the best investment you've ever made?
And that might be a cringe one, but myself. I haven't done any investing, so just invest in myself.
It's probably the right answer.
It is the right answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you an early riser or night owl?
I used to be an idol. Now I'm a very riser.
One piece of tech that you couldn't live without.
I use cloud a lot these days.
Mm-hmm. What's your book or podcast recommendation?
The business game.
Good answer.
Great answer.
We won't tell them that we paid you to say that.
One which I would recommend is TVPA. A lot of people in Silicon Valley are listening to TVPA a lot, and it's great.
Okay, awesome.
Fantastic.
All right, and final question. If business truly is a game, Andrea Tortella, how do you define winning?
Winning is about spreading ideas that matter to people who care. We're an advertising company trying to connect people with brands that they love. And so this is the single biggest metric that matters to us, is like how much are we able to connect people with brands that they love.
Good. And where can people find you online?
People can go on our website, Thrad.ai, where they can just search Andrea Tortella and they'll find me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. This has been an incredible, inspiring, all the things. I'm learning so much, and I can't wait to see where Thrad goes and where you head. We'll keep an eye out. So thank you so much.
All right, and that's all we do have time for. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to The Business Game and check out the playlist for the level of business you're currently playing.
Because every founder is somewhere on the game board, from 0 all the way to 200 billion. Choose your level, and we'll see you next time.
This is the